I have observed that the road to good health is one that is seldomly taken. Simple things such as having more exposure to sunlight in your life, taking a morning walk or taking your yoga or exercise outside, simply taking your shoes off does so much to sync up your body to the earth. You know, we forget how simple it is.
Light. So one of the things that you can do that can really maximize the amount of infrared light that you're getting is to go outside and be in settings that are green spaces. Wow. In fact, we've known for a long time that people who live in green spaces have much less of the types of diseases that we see when the mitochondria are not working: diabetes, hypertension. In fact, it reduces all-cause mortality.
You know, we forget how simple it is. We have the same fundamental needs as our four-legged furry friends. They never miss the opportunity to go outside. You know, they don't have these two frontal lobes in their brain telling them what to do. They just locked into nature, which has served them pretty well.
You are a mammal. You are a human, but you are a mammal first. Mammals are the dominant animal on this planet. You're the only mammal that comes out of its mother thinking it's wise to wear sunglasses and clothes.
Here's a quick shot over the bow, as our Navy boys say. To sum up the last 7 videos on nutritional health and healthy supplementation, nutritional science is basically lost at sea. The navigational systems are glitching. Personally, I don't think they're ever going to make it back to shore. Vitamin D has a lazy double that is ignored.
I said, there's a 25 hydroxy form of D, which is storage, and there's a 125 hydroxy dihydroxy vitamin D.
Not all sources of vitamins, omega fats, are born equal. The star DHA is recycled if the system is optimized.
Omega-6s or omega-3s outside of DHA can be a problem. Why? Because those fats they're much more likely to be oxidized by different processes. Turns out the reason that doesn't happen in us is because we reserve our DHA and recycle it. If you recycle it, it never gets oxidized. But the other things that do get oxidized are the things in your lipid membrane. So when your lipid membranes break down, then you can develop waste products from polyunsaturated fats, and they are a problem.
Vitamin A? Well, it has its own story to hide, and a role much more different than adding just a few carrots to your diet. Details really do matter, and sunlight, again, shines into the picture.
Nobody knew that there's this incredible relationship between copper and vitamin A. And what is vitamin A? It is a light sensor. What's vitamin D? It's a light filter. It blocks light. And yet it's been billed as the sunshine vitamin. Actually, Weston A. Price, who figured this out, that the sunlight during the winter has more blue light, and sunlight during the summer has more red light. The frequency of red light relates to copper. The frequency of blue light relates to iron. We are designed as a species to make hay while the sun shines. Let's make a lot of vitamin D during the summer months, and guess what? Our liver stores it, and it's good for 6 months.
Iron is born a troublemaker, only behaves if supervised by copper, which is in short supply these days. Copper is officially the captain of the ship, but strictly not permitted to be on the bridge.
There's so much iron in our environment, so much iron in our food, so much iron in our supplements. Is the iron bioavailable? Is it usable? If there isn't enough copper in your diet, it will not be usable, and it will get stuck in the tissue because the recycling system's not working. When you're in a state of fear, you become a magnet for iron. And that's the research that we just came upon in the last few months. This fear and all of these factors, the stress models are driving iron accumulation that we didn't know was taking place. Where is the iron accumulating? In the mitochondria. What's killing energy production in the mitochondria? The iron buildup, because it can't get out. Why? Because the doorways in the mitochondria and the cell are shut off. Why are they shut off? Because they're copper dependent. That it's a 3-ring circus that runs life on planet Earth. It's copper, iron, and oxygen. And if they don't play well together, you're going to have oxidative stress. And there are 20,000 symptoms that are described in the Merck manual. Guess what they all begin with? Oxidative stress. That's the triggering mechanism for all of those conditions. And I didn't know that at first. I worked in hospitals for 32 years. I really thought, wow, they know what they're doing. No, they don't.
Sunlight and copper are energy makers, and ironically, the most hated because we're told they cause cancer.
Because what do doctors really deliver in a centralized paradigm? Half-truths. What do I teach my members? Half-truths always lead to full lies. Full lies always lead to a prescription, and a prescription always leads to happy Pfizer and Merck. Okay, that is how the system is built. That we were told to trust the science, the centralized controller in that, Anthony Fauci. How'd that work out for everybody? How'd that work out for DeMar Hamlin for the Buffalo Bills? How'd that work out for J.J. Watt? How to retire, Hall of Fame career? Because his heart started acting funny. Gee, I wonder why that happened. How many people were compliant with the centralized mandates and then wound up with myocarditis, which all the centralized doctors that you're trusting said couldn't happen? Why is it literally 8 weeks ago, a guy named Kevin McKernan, who worked on the Human Genome Project, who now works in the cannabis industry. This guy's a pristine, molecular biologist. He decided to go get Pfizer vials that were expired and just test them. And he tested them. He found DNA plasmids and found SV40 in the vaccine that they told us that it couldn't be in.
What's SV40?
That's simian virus number 40 that showed up in the polio virus 75 years ago. Never ask yourself why it would show up in this one. What if I told you the same mistake that was made with the polio vaccine is now being made with this one?
Sunlight, the star of the show, got replaced by coppertone and is secretly cancer's worst enemy.
That this very same infrared light can really penetrate through the body and hit all of those areas of mitochondria. I can't tell you how many anecdotal stories I've heard of people who are now starting to go out and do this sort of thing. People that have been bedbound, and I'm hearing them, they're getting them outside into the sunlight. It's almost like they've had a new lease on life.
Fatty meats has 100 times more the energy, but ignored because we don't like fat. Instead, we enjoy our sugary friends for a quick lift instead.
1 mole of glucose makes 36 ATP. 1 mole of palmitic acid, which is a fat, makes 147.
These are just a few of the general highlights. This crazy reality is way too deep to pass off for a few missed revisions. Whatever the reasons, don't be collateral damage.
Question everything. The things that even you think are a good idea. Like, for example, you have a headache, you want to take aspirin. I'm not going to tell you that's a bad idea, but I'm going to even tell you I want you to question that. When the doctor tells your mom, who's 65 years old, to take aspirin every day, it's evidence-based. It's not. It's actually not.
The baby aspirin for the heart?
It's not. There's no good evidence that aspirin after age 65 works in women. There's minuscule evidence that it works in men. But guess what? Everybody does it. Mm-hmm. Just because everybody doesn't mean you should do it. See, it's okay to let the lemmings do what they do. But if you decide that you want to be decentralized, you are going to learn how to really think like a lion and a hippo. See, when a lion and a hippo get a headache because they're banging heads and fighting, they just go sit down in the sun. That's what they do. And they recover. They regenerate. Want to really become a black swan? All you have to do then is go on the internet and listen to Doug Wallace. He's the PhD researcher that taught us everything about mitochondria. He's never been funded because he's not a friend of Anthony Fauci. He works at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia.
I'm finding a lot more intelligence encoded in the nature of our metabolic pathways than our own puzzling healthcare system. In other words, nutritional science has failed us. Yeah, it's time we take that responsibility back for ourselves. I don't see any other way. I'm not saying supplementation is not needed. I'm just saying adding a morning walk to your routine is a primary supplement that we can't do without. So is the natural bioavailable minerals, especially copper, for 100 reasons. Or eliminating all the bright polarized light after the sun sets.
An alchemist who happened to be chiropractic and 40-year veteran of naturopathic, but he spent 30 years studying the alchemy of copper and iron. And he said, the most important thing I think you need to know about copper is it has a magnetic attraction to sunlight. We got to wake people up. We got to get them out of the stupor that the system is there for us. It's not. We've got to take responsibility for ourselves.
Nutrition study, every single study that any PhD or doctor reads has no light controls. So we're making the assumption that how it really works, and you don't have light controls, and I just told you how important light is. He wants us to focus in on nuclear genes when it turns out it's the mitochondrial genes that interact with the nuclear genes. That's what POMC is. POMC is a nuclear gene that only gets translated with UV light. Then if you want to learn about how we make endogenous light stronger than the sun, yes, I know some of you are going to think that's kind of crazy.
Cold thermogenesis, right?
Well, yes, but there's a book, Roland Van Wyck, Light Sculpting Life. You can go to that. If you want to learn about how the enzymes in your body do the things they do, there's a book on that now too. It's called Life on the Edge by Jim L. Khalili. In other words, there's now books being published. You want to be a black swan mitochondriac, go read Nick Lane's books. He's got a whole bunch of them, but the best one is called Power, Sex, and Suicide. You'll learn about how all those things link. It's a very provocative title, but it's provocative because he's going to teach you some things.
If I had an opportunity to go back to my younger 25-year-old self and give him some advice, I would tell him, forget everything you've been told about diet, health, and disease. Diet becomes more important when you're talking about a physiology that has been abused or has been deficient for a very long time. Don't make the same mistake I did and just pass it on as old age. It is certainly not old age, and I can testify to that.
I'll be 73 in a couple of weeks, and I've got 26,000 milligrams of iron in my body. We're designed for 5,000. Men are designed for 5,000. Women are designed for 4,000. In this model, it's a very simple model. Take your age, multiply times 365. It's not my formula. It's the formula that's used by all iron biologists on the planet. They know what's happening. Well, the iron biologists know about this study. They're very well versed in this. They know that aging is iron accumulation. We just didn't know that. Okay. So this is an article written by Joseph Prohaska in 2005. But what he's doing is he's revealing that these two enzymes, the ceruloplasmin and the PAM enzyme, are a true biological clock for humans, particularly as it relates to aging. I just found that article 2 days ago. I thought I had died and gone to heaven. The good news, if you will, of how incredibly intelligent and beautifully designed our body is, but it's based on nutrients that we're not allowed to talk about.